Today, Indiana churches were allowed to reopen for in-person services under Governor Eric Holcomb's plan to reopen the Hoosier State. But churches are being told to maintain social distancing guidelines. Earlier today, I spoke with Phil Heller, the lead pastor at Crossroads Christian Church, about what they're doing to keep their members safe. Phil, thanks for joining us tonight. Your church has made the decision to continue worshiping online for the next 6 weeks instead of hosting in-person services. Why is that?
Well, we really looked at the recommendations that the government had made and also the CDC recommendations. We felt like this might be a good entry-level way to begin worshiping together in community. We felt like it also gave a great consideration to those in vulnerable categories, so those over 65 who are not permitted to start entering into public gatherings. Also, children's ministry is really important to us as a congregation, and the restrictions to not allow children's programming was a major consideration. Also, we really wanted to continue experiencing what has been really special during these past 8 weeks as we worshiped online. We've been worshiping in families, and we felt like this was a great opportunity to kind of extend that level of community out, maybe one level to some existing relationships, or even an opportunity to make new relationships as we worship online together. And so we're kind of following some of those stair steps of public gatherings that the governor has recommended. We feel like that's a good application to even houses of worship, just to begin to take care of our neighbor and also to kind of ease back into worshiping together as a group.
Yeah, what would you say to all those people across the tri-state who are really wanting to get back to in-person services as soon as possible? Why is it important for churches to consider those health risks associated with that?
Well, certainly, there's a great desire to be together as the body of Christ. That is something that the Bible speaks a lot about, that how important that community is. And we really believe, Christianity is something you do with God, but also with other believers. And so we really certainly all have a strong desire to be back together. I would say that there's an intentional plan just to continue to ease back into that. One, because of the health concerns for all people. We want to be sensitive to those. We want to be good neighbors. God says that loving him and loving others are really equal in his mind. And so I think this is an expression of us being the church. It's a chance for us to love our neighbor and to maybe even to defer to them in this time instead of just hurrying back to something that we hold really, really precious. Yeah, we also think that this is a good way just to kind of ease back into what we were experiencing before COVID-19 impact. It allows us to make sure that the health concerns are being addressed. And also, it gives us kind of a way to begin worshiping together and enjoying those relationships.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you, do you have any idea when church members might be able to attend worship services at the church again?
Sure. We have said for the next 6 weeks, we're going to be worshiping online in these smaller gatherings. We're certainly game planning of what that looks like come the middle of June. And we certainly hope that there will be a time that's very soon we can be worshiping together. We recognize that, the church is not limited to a building or a location. It really is representative of people who have a united commitment with Christ and also are living on mission with Christ. That's something we can do and should be doing individually and with others every day of the week, every day of the year. And so our public gatherings are certainly an expression of our faith. And so as we live now as the church, we hope that will actually even change and enhance our gathering when we come back together all at one time.
Yeah, and when in-person services do begin there again, any idea what they'll look like? Will they be different than they were before?
Well, we really feel like God has been working during this time. He's really showed us some ways that we could continue to engage in worship, even trying some new things in this past 8 weeks to help those who are worshiping with us to find new and fresh ways to worship God. We plan on those, being implemented into our large group gatherings when we gather back together. One example of that is instead of just maybe preaching for 40 minutes, we've been interrupting that time with just some discussion questions for families to discuss about how they're growing in their faith. We're encouraging the groups that begin gathering this weekend to use those times to really share and learn together. And we ultimately hope that, as we return to larger gatherings, some of those things will continue to be ways that we can express our faith in God.
And that was lead pastor Phil Heller with Crossroads Christian Church. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear says that all places of worship can reopen in Kentucky on May 20th.